Hi, my name is Kritika. Thank you for listening to my podcast. Have you heard the sound of your own voice? Please tune in to weekly episodes if you suffer from depression or anxiety and want reassurance that you will be alright soon. I strive to stay away from people who exude negative energy, said a patient who visited the acupuncture clinic in which I work. Have you heard anyone make a similar comment? What is your reaction? Do you become wary about what you share with a friend because you are afraid you may be labeled negative? I fear being judged, so I bury my thoughts and resort to silence. I graduated from high school in a pre Instagram, pre Facebook age. I recognize it makes me sound antiquated. As a result of growing up without social networks, my school life was relatively free from disappointment. As with most middle income families, the focus was on academic excellence. I sheltered in the confines of the school library with little exposure to the outside world. I studied engineering in college because I enjoyed math and liked to teach it to others willing to listen. I erroneously believed that life follows a straight, effort reward path. As I saw it, one had to formulate a goal, work hard, and achieve it, and then repeat the process all over again. It was in graduate school that my meticulously crafted future threatened to crumble. Failure avoidant me had not witnessed anything like this before. The onset of headaches and random crying spells was more upsetting than an uncertain future. I was diagnosed with clinical depression after months of sleepless nights. What was frustrating to me at the time was the lack of literature detailing others' lived experiences. There are words aside from darkness to describe depression. There are ways of describing the horrors of a depressive episode without ambiguity. I wrote a memoir called Have You Heard the Sound of Your Own Voice, where I revisit and reproduce in minute detail the specifics of a depressive episode so that someone suffering right now has a vocabulary with which to relate. Why this podcast, you may ask? Depression alienates you from all that feels safe and familiar. Because it does not manifest with the predictability of other ailments, family and friends find it difficult to support a depressed person. I feel like an army is required to drag a person suffering from anxiety or depression from their misery. With this podcast, I hope to, in a self effacing tone, convince you that while the disease is dreadful, you can manage the symptoms and even rise above them if you refuse to give up on yourself. Have you sat in the passenger seat and used Google Maps to navigate? 7 miles to destination, driving time 22 minutes, the app estimates. While on the freeway, the screen freezes temporarily and you miss an exit. You then continue to drive in exasperation as the app stops with rerouting. With, say, heart disease or diabetes, you can be reasonably sure that you are on the road to recovery by taking the prescribed medication and following a healthy diet. Not so the case with depression. There is no guaranteed time frame for healing. There is no assurance that the drug will work optimally for you or that the therapist you see will help you overcome unresolved trauma. You are then stuck, distraught on the freeway of life, where all around you people are smoothly buzzing past. Hope is not an easily sustainable emotion. However, to push back against this disease, you need to hold on to it. This podcast will attempt to outline some lessons learned while getting to where I am today. This is primarily a space of reflection. I am confident that you will identify the thought patterns holding you back and move steadily towards being the most authentic version of yourself. I am not a healthcare provider. The statements made are based on my personal experiences with and opinions about depression. They are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any condition or disease. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for consultation with a licensed healthcare practitioner.